Okay. Hi, Sharon Duffy. All right, let's get started. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for joining us for our second Wellness Wednesday, brought to you by Minneapolis.St.Paul Magazine and Northwestern Health Sciences University. I'm Jamie Korf. I am a deputy editor for the magazine, and I've also penned many articles about natural health for Northwestern over the past several years, interviewing and working closely among many of their in-house experts. And this series is where we're taking that content to the small screen and humanizing it by showcasing those experts and their breadth of knowledge and their honest and fascinating insights in a major light, so that you guys can get to know them and get inspired by their subject matter expertise as well. If this is your first time here, welcome. And if it's not, welcome back. Wellness Wednesdays, it's a new health series that takes place at noon on the third Wednesday of each month, where I'll be joined by these top Twin Cities health influencers to learn about what's new and tried and true in the natural health realm. For those who may be unfamiliar, Northwestern Health Sciences University is based in Bloomington. They are the leading chiropractic school in the Midwest. Among their menu of services and studies, they offer acupuncture, cupping, Chinese medicine, massage therapy, and so much more. And their Bloomington clinic, which is open to the public, they offer those natural health care services as well. And over the past year, they actually added telemedicine for most of those services to better serve patients while we continue to remain socially distanced for the foreseeable future. If you haven't done so, I do highly encourage you to take a few minutes out of your day and check out the roster of articles that we've produced with Northwestern over the years. We have covered so much, and there's still so much to be covered. From introducing Ayurvedic medicine to how massage therapy addresses touch starvation in these COVID times, to how Eastern and Western medicine is finally joining forces together. And today we're actually going to be talking about something that eludes just about every single one of us, and it's called sleep. Especially when you consider the past year and the compounded crises that we've witnessed and endured on an individual and a collective level. Sleep is something that's supposed to be a natural process, yet it's something that doesn't feel like it's under our control all at the same time. It's full of dichotomies. And so these buzzwords have been hitting the headlines. You know, you hear a lot about circadian rhythm, which is not really a buzzword, that's an actual thing. And sleep hygiene, which is definitely a buzzword. That stuff has been making the rounds over the years, and the sleep industry is just rolling in the dough as they invent and make promises that the next best device will, you know, help us take control of our sleep once and for all. And yet we're still checking the clock. 11 p.m., 1 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m. You guys, you know the story. The cycle is very real. So today's topic, which is all about the Chinese medicine body clock and how it affects our sleep, is inspired by an article that I actually wrote last summer that ended up being the most popular post that we've done with Northwestern to date, which I credit much to the universal nature and just kind of overall general intrigue of sleep. A little backstory here real quick before I introduce our guest. I had been for weeks waking up at a really unusual time and a very precise time. It was 3:27 a.m. and it kept happening. And after a while, it just didn't feel like a coincidence. Like there just had to be more to the story. It's just my body, my brain, it just knew that the time had come, 3:27, and bam, the eyelids go up. And so anyways, I had innocently asked my acupuncturist about this phenomenon, not thinking much of it, beyond maybe there's a ghost haunting my dreams because I'm dramatic and fantastical like that. But anyways, what she ended up doing was chalking it up to grief. And my stomach dropped and my heart sank. And I wanted to ask her, how did you know? My little brother had passed unexpectedly the summer before, and I was edging up on the 1-year anniversary of his death. So she went on to explain to me that different organs of our body, or energy meridians, I believe they're called, are assigned different hours of the day in which they function at their optimum. The hours of the day where the lungs, function at their best is between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m. When the lungs are imbalanced, so maybe, you're having shallow breathing, you'll find yourself wheezing or coughing or waking up at night. That is, she explained to me, your body's way of telling you that you need to address emotions of long-held grief and sadness. And that absolutely blew my mind. And when I wrote this article, it was last summer when the unrest was happening, when, obviously we're still in a pandemic, but, it felt very much like there was no light at the end of the tunnel. And I know, just anecdotally and talking to people, that we've all experienced, different forms of grief. It doesn't have to be mourning a person, mourning the life that we shared before. And so a lot of people had said something along the lines of, yeah, my sleep, it's just wrecked. So I decided to do some research, and then I interviewed an expert at Northwestern Health Sciences University. And so that actually brings us to today's guest, Dr. Megan Mabe. While she was not my source for that particular article, she is extremely well-versed in the Chinese medicine body clock topic, and she'll be presenting on how this 2,000 to 2,500 year old school of thought kind of examines the functionality of our internal organs during our sleep-wake cycle. So with that, if you have a question, as I'm sure there will be many, please do drop it in the Q&A box, and we will do our best to answer it with the time that we have today. I think Dr. Mabe will open up the floor, maybe the last 15 minutes, and we can dedicate that to questions. And if we don't get to everyone's questions and there just seems to be a lot of intrigue, we could certainly, this could be branched off into a part 2 down the road. So anyways, without further ado, please help me welcome Chinese medicine practitioner and massage therapist, Dr. Megan Mabe. Over to you, Dr. Mabe.
Hi, I'm really happy to be here today. We are going to be talking about the Chinese medicine body clock today as it relates to sleep. We're going to start with just a presentation about the organs that are specific to during the times that we should be sleeping, and then we'll give a little time for questions. If we have some time after, then we can go through the waking cycle as well. So I'm going to share my screen and start with PowerPoint, and then and we'll go from there. So what if you were able to unlock the secret to making every day work for you? What if you knew the best time to eat and sleep, to exercise and to relax, when to do your most demanding work, when you're most likely to come up with good ideas, and all the other things that would make life more straightforward and even feel like it's on your side? The wonderful news is that the design for your perfect day already exists. Over thousands of years ago, traditional Chinese medicine not only discovered how our organs work, but also how each of them directly impact our emotions and our spirit. If an organ isn't in balance or functioning as well as it should be, this will affect both your physical well-being and how you relate to yourself and others on an emotional level. The Chinese organ clock can be used as a guide to understand your energy cycle and to help you understand how to best nurture yourself during these times, to do certain things and to avoid others depending on what the organ time is. So in Chinese medicine, our circadian rhythm, like we know in Western medicine as well, are divided into 2-hour intervals across the 24-hour day. During each time frame, the concentration of qi, or our energy, and blood peak in specific internal organs, giving it a chance to reset and regulate. So just briefly, qi is a concept that in Chinese medicine you'll hear a lot. And so it's important to kind of understand what qi means in this context. And it consists of energy in every sense. The earth has qi, our body has qi, our thoughts and our emotions. Qi is in a constant state of rhythm. It helps our blood move through our bodies. And the Chinese medicine body clock is based on the understanding of qi. During the 24 hours of the day, qi is thought to move in and out of our different organ systems every 2 hours. So during the night, our qi goes inward to our body so it can rest and reset. The concentration of qi and blood peak in a specific internal organ, giving it a chance to reset and to regulate. So the Chinese medicine clock and sleep. Are you waking at a certain time every night? Are you adhering to normal sleep patterns? Are you a night owl? These all are important when it comes to the body clock. So the body clock, which you'll see, is going to show that there's important times for you to sleep, for you to get to bed. And there are times during the night that your body is working really hard to reset. So, and this little quote at the bottom is really important because every hour of sleep before midnight is worth 2 hours after midnight. Okay.
Dr. May, would you mind elaborating on that just a little bit more, what that quote means?
Yeah, absolutely. So when you look at the Chinese medicine clock and you look at our sleep time, our body goes into a deeper sleep in the beginning of our night. So you may notice, like we were talking about before, you wake in the middle of the night or later in the night. And so and our body actually is doing a lot of the work in the beginning of the night. So when you're going to sleep too late, it's really hard for your body to play catch up, per se. The energy in your body starts moving inward and it's ready to rest, starting at around 9 o'clock. And so if you get, the optimal bedtime is about 10:30. And if you can get to bed by 10:30, then the natural rhythms can happen. And we say that every hour before midnight is so optimal because there's so much going on during that time. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, yeah. So let's start at 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. So that's typically when people are starting to kind of wind down. Dinner's over and we're preparing our bodies to sleep. So this is really a great time to start to wind down your day by turning inward, reading a book, running a bath, stretching, or meditating to keep things starting to heal and get ready for bed. And the pericardium is believed to be the protector of the heart. This period is when qi is supposedly regulated to prevent symptoms such as nausea and vomiting. The pericardium rules self-expression, boundaries, and vulnerability. And the motions behind the pericardium, if balanced, are joy, confidence, and openness. If imbalanced, are despair, fear of expression, and fear of intimacy. Some of the symptoms you may have if there's an imbalance in the pericardium are nervous laughter, relationship fears, phobias, things like that. So again, this is a really good time to start winding down, getting ready for bed. And some good tips, again, would be to reconnect with your loved ones, to establish nurturing rituals like skincare, journaling, and doing some mindful introspection about your day, kind of letting go of things for your day. And then from 9 to 11 p.m., and again, this is the optimal time to get to bed. 10:30 is really the most important time to get to bed. In an ideal world, we'll start easing into the sleep at this hour so our bodies can keep our endocrine and metabolic systems regulated, so we can conserve some of our energy for the next day. The triple warmer or triple heater governs our body's fluid metabolism. And this is a concept of Chinese medicine that if you're interested, you can look up about the triple warmer, because it's not in Western medicine, but it really affects our fluid metabolizing within our bodies. So, and a biological view would be if you're thinking about all the connective tissue in your body and how it all connects to certain muscles and tissues and organs. That's kind of what the triple warmer does, is it kind of moves throughout the body, and it's specifically concentrated in your thorax, your abdomen, and your pelvis. And so symptoms of an imbalance in the triple warmer would be swollen lymph, edema, sluggishness in your metabolism, adrenal fatigue, autoimmune related inflammation. And so you could see this if you have a hard time falling asleep, if you wrestle with, oh, I really feel tired, but I can't seem to get myself to bed at a decent time, and that kind of falls in between 9 and 11 p.m. This could be something where there might be an imbalance in the triple warmer that you want to look into. If you can try getting to bed earlier, that's great. Do things like self-soothing and calming your nervous system at this time, and definitely avoid artificial lighting and media during this time.
Dr. Mabe, are you okay with me interrupting you really
Yeah.
quick? I had a question,
Yes.
and it looks like somebody else has the same question, so I thought I would kind of coalesce the two. And
Sure.
I figured in the event that we don't get around to talking about the wake cycle, maybe we can address this right here. But this person
Sure.
asks, if 10:30 p.m. is the optimal time to sleep, like you're saying, do we know what the optimal time to wake up from that is? And I mean, maybe it's varied, but how do we go about with adjusting that to our schedules? That's kind of a question, but any insights?
Yeah. Yeah. So, we really, so the sleep cycle ends right around between 5 and 7 a.m. So if optimally in Chinese medicine, it would be if you do get to bed by 10:30, an optimal time to wake up would be within that 5 to 7 a.m. range, depending on how much your body really needs of sleep and all of that. So yeah, optimally it would be good to get up around that 5 to 7 a.m. time, and that's a good time for more preparing for the day, exercise, things like that. And that's really when your body's ready to wake up.
So maybe we don't need to hone in so much on, oh, I got 6.5 hours. Oh, I got 8, as long as it's, we're pretty religious with 10:30, and waking up between 5 and 7. Barring we haven't woken up much throughout the night, we should be feeling pretty good overall because we're in alignment with that cycle more than anything.
Right. And that optimal time is 10:30, but if you're going to bed earlier, that's great. It's more so so much happens after 10:30 and between that time that if you're not in bed, it's more detrimental to your body, and your sleep is going to be off if you're not in bed by then. But if someone's tired and their regular nighttime routine is I do my self-reflection, I get ready, I turn my media off, and I get into bed at 9 and I fall asleep and I sleep well, then that's great. It's more so you don't want to be trying to get to bed after 10:30.
Got it. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So interesting.
Yeah. So we're on to the gallbladder. So gallbladder is between 11 p.m. and 1 a.m. And this is a lot is happening in your body at this time. These are the power hours when true regeneration happens. The gallbladder works hard to repair damaged cells and build new ones. The gallbladder excretes bile to assist in your digestion. And it also governs the sinews and their strength. It's imperative to be asleep by this time for healthy rest, the healthy rest phase. Um, Being sound asleep during this time is essential for healthy cognitive functioning and cellular repair. It's kind of like your circadian rhythm or the REM sleep. So your body's very active. And it's doing all the repair, it's doing a lot of digestion, and it's letting your body get into more of a parasympathetic state where things can heal and reset for the next day. So the gallbladder is in charge of judgment and decision making. It provides the courage and initiative to carry out tasks. And then you can see when balanced, you'll feel optimistic and there you have the initiative to get things done. You have courage. If it is imbalanced or you feel like you're waking at this time, you might be a little bit more timid or have some indecisiveness. You might have physical symptoms of tendinitis or high cholesterol. You may have a hard time in digesting fatty meals, fatty foods. You might be struggling with some decisions. So some tips for if you're struggling during this period of the night would be to eat smaller meals at night so your body doesn't have a lot to digest and it can get ready and prepare for that nighttime and for that healing and repairing of cellular membranes and things. And also eating healthier oils like avocado or coconut oils, olives, nuts, fruits, and sour foods like apple cider vinegar or lemon juice if you're having digestive concerns. All of these things will help to really support the gallbladder and to heal the gallbladder.
Dr. Mabe, what happens if we had our gallbladder removed?
If you had your gallbladder removed, it would be interesting to see if you're waking at this time, but your body kind of compensates. So it actually is good if you have had your gallbladder removed to be eating some of those more healthier oils and to be eating lighter meals at night during the digestive time, just to help support the system in your body and your metabolism. So, because it doesn't have that gallbladder to help process, but your liver takes over, and so yeah, your body should be fine. But I would definitely take on those tips of just trying not to eat so many fatty foods and supporting your digestion with the apple cider vinegar and the lemon juice and eating lighter at night. So the liver is from 1 a.m. to 3 a.m. If you're waking up in the middle of the night after a cocktail or two, it's because your liver is working on overdrive to relieve your body of excess toxins. The liver cleanses our blood, and when this process gets interrupted, it can result in low energy and feelings of angst the following day. So those who prescribe to the Chinese body clock believe it's important to give your liver as little to process as possible during this period so it can focus on its several cleansing functions. This means, again, eating your last meal of the day early and making sure it's light. And in Chinese medicine terms, the liver ensures the smooth circulation of qi and blood. It can manifest in your eyes, your hair, and your nails. We work a lot with the liver in Chinese medicine because it affects the body so much. So if you're feeling a lot of frustration, irritability, anger, it could mean that you have a stagnation in your liver, and it's important to kind of focus on that. Some other symptoms could be moodiness, depression, PMS, high blood pressure. And some tips for you if you're waking this time or if you're having an imbalance in the liver is to moderate your alcohol consumption, to make sure you're exercising. Movement is really important to keep things flow, your chi moving through your body and to prevent you from having stagnation. Definitely take short breaks from work. If you're sitting a lot, it's important to get up and move. Again, that's the whole movement part and keeping things from becoming stagnant. And then practicing deep breathing, especially before nighttime. And if you're waking at this time, it's a really great time to deep breathe. So,
Dr. Mabe,
yeah.
should there be some sort of like, is there a tried and true cutoff if we have a drink or two, say it's, happy hour? Should I try to like vow to be done by 7, or does it really matter? Is it more like just making sure that I'm hydrated before I go to bed? What does that look like?
Well, if you're looking at the body clock, it would be, to try to be done by 7 and to also make sure you're hydrated. Yes. And maybe that night, if you are having some happy hour drinks, to be eating a lighter meal with that. But I would say definitely by 7 would be a good time to stop with alcohol consumption. Yeah. And then we get to the lungs, that 3 a.m. to 5 a.m. Beyond respiration, our lungs help us move energy through the body and keep our immune system in top health. When the lungs are imbalanced, symptoms like wheezing and coughing can surface. If you find yourself waking during this time, it's your body's way of telling you that it needs to address that grief. This precedes the wake up time for inspiration for our day. This time, at the end of this time, the 5 a.m. to 5 to 7 a.m. is the perfect and ideal time to exercise. That we're moving now from the yin or the more quiet time of day to the more yang time. So it's really great to exercise when you wake up in the morning just to get your body going. So a balanced state would be acceptance, surrender, and clarity, and an imbalance would be grief, sadness, and sadness. Symptoms of imbalance would be the prolonged sadness and grief. Could be asthma, could be shortness of breath, excessive sweating, allergies, a weak immune system. If you're crying a lot, that also really affects your lungs, or it's correlated to your lungs, related to your lungs. And you probably, if you do have big, long sighs, that's also lungs. So some good tips for you: practice deep breathing or meditation, light physical activity to improve your lung function. And if you really are struggling with a lot of grief, like a lot of people are this year, it's really important to make sure you're speaking it. So seeking out a counselor or someone that you can talk to work through that. So. And then the large intestine. So the large intestine is 5 a.m. to 7 a.m. And the large intestine is responsible for eliminating waste from our bodies. And it works with the lungs to cleanse the body of food waste, toxins, excess hormones, and even our emotions. It energetically represents the ability to let go and to release the need to control. A lot of people wake up during this time, but if that's abnormal for you and your sleeping pattern's a little later, consider that there may be something in the large intestine which might, lead you to some insight as to what's going on and why you're waking. This also is a time, because the large intestine is so much related to the lungs, is a time that you might have grief or sadness as well. You also may feel like you have a need for control. Oftentimes, if there's an imbalance in the large intestine, symptoms could be the constipation, diarrhea, colitis, bloating, food allergies, and chronic fatigue. And tips for this time and for the large intestine, look to your diet and hydration if there are bowel irregularities during these hours. Drink more water. We generally recommend that you're drinking half your body weight in ounces a day. Regular exercise during this time, getting your natural fiber through vegetables and dark leafy greens. Avoid cold raw foods and cold drinks. This is another Chinese medicine concept that we talk about, that cold drinks and raw foods are not ideal for the body, because the body has to work so hard to break it down that it's using up all of its energy to warm that food up and break it down. And yeah, so eat more warmed foods. Make sure you're cooking your foods for breakfast. Make sure you are having something warm, and maybe something with some vegetables to help with that fiber. And then I just wanted to note too, so we talk about the Chinese body clock, and that's that really impacts our sleep tremendously. But we also can, if we have the deep grief, if we are overworked, or there are lots of different situations in our life that can affect our sleep. And in Chinese medicine, there are some other patterns that we see that we take a look at if someone's having insomnia. And this can be blood and qi deficiency, yin deficiency, and excess heat. And so we would look at the body clock and the time you're waking, but we would also look at constitutionally what pattern you may be presenting. And we would kind of look at both of those together and help to find supplementation or lifestyle changes or food therapy suggestions to help you, say if you have blood and qi deficiency, to nourish your blood. If you have yin deficiency, to nourish that yin. And blood and qi deficiency could happen if you're not having the right foods, if you are excessively exercising or excessively working, if you're overstimulating your body and you're under a lot of stress. For yin deficiency, that typically is more of a prolonged illness or strong emotional life changes. If you are, for women, when we go through premenopause and menopause, you'll hear a Chinese medicine provider say you're going through a yin deficiency because you're having more deficient heat signs. And then excessive heat is depends on, or it definitely stems from a lot of dietary choices. So if you're overeating or eating heavy foods, or you're consuming a lot of coffee and alcohol, these are things that could cause excessive heat. And you'll notice that at night too, if you're pulling off all your blankets because you're sweating, or if you're waking really hot and have to open the window, we might want to consider, what are you eating? Or are you yin deficient, or do you have excess heat? And so, yeah, so I had a question earlier too about supplementation for sleep disturbance and sleep hygiene. And we as Chinese medicine providers, we have herbal remedies and formulas that really can help with your sleep. And so if you're focusing on the body clock and you still are having troubles, that's something that we can help with in terms of, we would look at your constitutional pattern, and then we would help to prescribe something that would help not only with your sleep, but if you're fatigued or if you're having grief or whatever it may be in your life that's kind of disturbing your sleep, but also maybe disturbing your day. So, and then sleep hygiene. So we talked a little bit about turning off your computers, turning off any monitors, having a warm bath, turning the lights down, maybe putting some essential oils in a diffuser, and really trying to get your body to let go of the day. Journaling is really good at the end of the day. And if you're waking in the middle of the night and you're up for hours upon hours, I always suggest don't create the pattern of you struggling in your bed. Your bed is your sleep time. So if you're struggling, get up and maybe go to the couch with the lights low and read a book or have a cup of tea until you get tired again, and then go back to sleep. Or do something that's going to be restful, but because if you're awake for hours upon hours, just trying to get back to sleep, your body is creating this pattern of wakefulness when you're in your bed. So
in other words, we shouldn't be working from our bed either, right?
you should not be working from your bed. No. Your bedroom should be your restful, room. Yes. So make sure you're working in an office, or working in at a table, and really don't bring your screens into your bedroom if you can help it. I know a lot of us put our alarms on our phones, but if you can find another way to have your alarm be something else, just that screen and that phone in your room is distracting and can affect your sleep. Yeah. So I'd like to open it up to some questions if people have questions before we move into the wake cycle.
Dr. Mabe, somebody asked, there's 3 really good questions here. The first one is, what happens when we take a nap? Does that do anything to the sleep wake cycle? Is that something we should try to avoid, or should we set out a certain time of day in which we do get that little bit of extra rest?
Naps are great for our body because our bodies go into, a lot of people notice around 1 to 3 p.m. our bodies start getting tired, and that time is like when we're just starting to move into the yin cycle, and so our bodies are getting tired. So naps are great, and it's not going to hurt your sleep cycle. It actually would be helpful to just give your body a little boost for the day. So I always suggest the best time to nap would be, between the 1 and 3 time. And that's also a good time to just kind of slow down for a little bit, maybe to have a cup of tea, or to get outside and sit under a tree, or do a light walk or something, just to kind of give your body a little boost. So naps are great. Yeah.
Another attendee had asked about leg cramps. I know that doesn't specifically apply to this subject matter. I mean, it does, but not so much that.
Yeah. So are they having restless leg at night?
That's what I wonder. I don't know.
Yeah.
Julie, if you want to elaborate on that a little bit more, but.
Yeah, I can talk on that. Sure. Leg cramps can be a number of things. In Chinese medicine, we can look at it as more of like a blood deficiency. But it can also be like magnesium deficiency. It can be a lot of different things. So I would say it's probably a nutrient deficiency. And then in Chinese medicine, it's, more of like a blood deficiency. So eating nourishing foods, getting extra magnesium, and calcium to help. Nourishing foods for the blood would be like your red vegetables, so like beets and greens, leafy greens. Majuli dates are really great if you have a hard time sleeping or you're exhausted through the day. If you have some Majuli dates, they're the big plump ones before you go to bed. That can really help your sleep and can help the restless legs too.
Sounds good. She replied, Julie said it doesn't happen often, but randomly she can go weeks and have it 2 or 3 nights in a row, and that she has tried magnesium. So maybe like you're saying, Dr. Mabe, incorporating some of those more the medjool dates and you said leafy, right? Leafy vegetables.
Yeah, leafy greens. Bone broth is really good. And I would like, restless legs can happen for so many reasons. So it'd be interesting to know what other, symptoms are happening or what her day is like. But yeah, I would say, look to your food for help with that one.
Next question. Somebody wants to know, what do they do if maybe they're doing all the right things, but their partner snores?
Oh, wear earplugs. I don't help your partner with getting into the body clock, and it sounds like the partner needs to look into if they have some sleep apnea or if they're drinking alcohol too late or if they have lung stuff going on. But the only suggestion I would have would be earplugs. Or sleep in another room if you really need sleep. Or kick your partner out. I mean, they're the ones snoring, right? Yeah.
Okay, Matt wants to know, and this, I would like to know this as well, because in a perfect world, I go to bed early and wake up early, but as long as I can remember, I just don't.
Yeah.
Although having a baby has helped in some ways, but Matt wants to know this whole, the optimal bedtime, the optimal wake time. What do you do for us night owls? How do we go about with waking up feeling rested? If, because it's not a one size fits all, it's more idealistic, right, Dr. Mabe. So do you have any suggestions for the night owls among us?
Yeah. So my suggestion, okay, there's always like the optimal, right? And I understand that people's work schedules are different and some people just love to be up late. But really focusing on the sleep hygiene and trying to, if your hours are like off a couple hours, right? If you're not going to bed until 11 or 12, then kind of look at the suggestions for that time. So, if you're starting to wind down, just make sure you're winding down. If you, from that 7 to 9 p.m. is the wind down time, but if you're not going to bed until 12, then maybe make sure that you're starting to wind down and turning off things an hour and a half or 2 hours before you get into bed. I know that's hard sometimes because we're always on our screens, and then really paying attention to your waking hours, making sure that you're eating well, making sure that your hygiene for the day is good. And I think that your body will forgive you if you're not going to bed at 10:30. But yeah, lots of good sleep hygiene. And eating lighter at night. I would just suggest doing the same things, but just kind of shifting those suggestions a couple hours to later in the evening.
Consistency is kind of the name of the game, right, Dr. Mabe?
Yep, absolutely. Consistency is key. And I think our bodies love routine and they get comfortable with routine and with consistency. And so if you're shifting those hours, that's okay. But just like make sure it's consistent every day. And your body will be like, oh, okay, it's time for me to wind down or, whatever it may be. So, yeah.
Sounds great, and much appreciated for the night owls among us who always kind of feel like delinquents when it comes to sleep stats. We want to be that person, but we just don't always have it in us to go to bed early and to wake up early. So good to know
Absolutely.
that all, the sleep hygiene techniques and the tips that you had rattled off, Dr. Mabe, that applies to that crowd as well.
Yep.
Moving on here, Rachel wants to know, and I'm not, I don't have the answer to this either. We're kind of reverting, but you were talking about napping. You encourage it, which is great. Did you say, Dr. Mabe, like, did you put any kind of restraints around how long that ideal nap is?
Yeah, so it says when you're napping, I didn't, but a rule of thumb is that you want to do cat naps, because if you sleep too long and you're like in the middle of a REM cycle or something, your body is going to be tired because your body starts working so hard during REM. So optimally, a half hour, 20 minutes to half hour, maybe 35 minutes is ideal for that nap time. Yeah. But I wouldn't move beyond an hour, because we typically get into our REM about 90 minutes into our sleep. And so you're kind of like leaning farther towards that. And if you got into a REM sleep, that would definitely affect your nighttime and you wouldn't wake rested.
Thank you, Dr. Mabe. Good to know. I don't nap, because when I nap for hours and I've wasted the day.
Yeah. And then you're probably tired and not wanting to go to bed either.
But yeah, good to know to kind of keep it within, the 20-ish, 25, 30-ish minute parameters. That sounds like that's pretty optimal.
Yeah.
Joan wants to know what happens if I don't know if you know anything about this, Dr. May, but if someone's feet gets kind of hot and red at night, even if they keep the covers off of their feet, is there some sort of heat imbalance happening in the body? Maybe that's more of a supplement question.
It sounds like it. It sounds like there's some kind of heat. It sounds like either a deficiency or an excess of heat. I would want to know more about the symptoms of, if any other part of the body gets hot, or if they get hot other parts of the day. But it does sound like a heat imbalance within the body. Mm-hmm.
Okay, sounds good. Another question, and I think a lot of people are going to relate to this one. What happens if you wake up multiple times throughout the night to use the restroom? Is there a certain time in which we should just completely cease drinking all fluids? What are your recommendations around that, Dr. Mabe?
That's a tricky one because it's some people have an overactive bladder and they get up and have to pee, and it is important to kind of drink more of your fluids like beginning of the day, and try to like front load those fluids and then start slowing down with your fluids at night. And if you are staying hydrated, your body's going to be okay with that. It's important to probably stop drinking the fluids, around if you're going to bed between 9 and 10:30, around the 7:30 time, so that your body can hopefully not wake as much. But yeah, it typically, I would say about 7:30. A lot of us forget to drink during the day, and then we try to drink a lot at night because we're thirsty. So if you can just be more mindful of that, that would be good.
Perfect. It almost seems like it becomes a habit after a while. I mean, when I was pregnant, I was getting up often. I mean, obviously that's also due in part to the fact that baby's, placement is,
Pushing on your bladder, yeah.
For sure. But it just seemed like it became almost like a muscle memory thing for me, where even if I didn't drink anything after a certain time, I'd still wake up. But I'm sure that's all obviously variable depending upon the individual too, as to why that might keep happening even after you cease drinking liquids at a certain time of night.
Yeah, and I can also speak to that in terms of if it's not liquids and you're like trying to shift your liquid intake to earlier and then lessen it up and you're still waking, you're right. It's kind of a muscle memory thing where it's you kind of have an overactive bladder per se, and that's actually something that acupuncture can really help with, and it may not take very many treatments. So we can work with that, and can help. We actually can put certain needles for digestion and for bladder support into the body, and people have really found that it's helpful in their nighttime urination. So there are other options for sure, but
Thanks, Dr. Mabe. That's such a
yeah.
great tip. Lisa wants to know, she says she is a teenager who has a hard time falling asleep before 11 p.m. And obviously we know that kids have to wake up pretty early for school. Do you have any advice for helping kids get more sleep during the years in which they do need that extra sleep, where it's more?
Yeah. So my question to her would be, are you up studying late and so you're not getting to bed until 11? Or are you, what is the reason for the 11 o'clock? You probably need to wind down after, or if you're exercising or you have a sport, you might be doing your sport later and then needing to wind down and eat. So there's not an exact prescription for that, I would say. But if they have time during the day to nap, or if they really can do the sleep hygiene an hour before, hopefully, your body is getting the sleep that it needs, and the deep sleep and the regeneration. And again, it's not like a certain amount of hours, but if you're waking fatigued, that would be an indicator that you're not getting enough sleep. If you're not waking fatigued and you're feeling good and you're okay, then your body's probably doing okay and doing what it needs to do during the night with that short amount of sleep. But if you are waking fatigued, I would say a lifestyle, somehow if you can adjust your life, your activities during the day so that you can wind down a little bit earlier, or you can sleep a little bit later, would be ideal.
All right, Dr. Mabe, it's 12:54, so we probably just have time for a couple more questions.
Great.
Sarah wants to know, she asked this a little while ago, what are your thoughts on using apps? Because this is, again, the subject of sleep, right? And there's so many different tenets. There's so many dichotomies. Don't use your phone, but then we have apps that are supposed to be conducive to falling asleep. So she wants to know, what are your thoughts on using apps like Calm? Is that unhelpful to be doing some mindfulness things if you're just listening and not actually, and not actually watching anything? So maybe you've got like your earbuds in, but the screen is flipped or whatnot, or just turned off.
Yeah, I think that's a great self-hygiene tip. I think that if you can turn it so that it's like on airplane mode or something, and then you're just like using the app and listening, that's great. I would say that those apps can make you really sleepy. And so if you can get it to a point where you don't have to turn it off, that's would be helpful too, because our body does get really tired. So anytime you have to like move to turn it off, or bring your phone out or whatever, it will wake you back up. But so yeah, if I think those apps are great. They really are helpful. And if you're using the Calm app, maybe you can do that if you don't want to do it in bed and you want to keep your phone out of the room, maybe do that on your couch half an hour before bed, and then go into bed and see if you can rest. Your body can just kind of settle into a sleep. But having a routine of listening to a meditative app for a little bit is great, if that's helpful for them.
Dr. Mabe, are you familiar? This is a question for me. Are you familiar with ASMR and how that can help people fall asleep?
I am not.
Okay.
Yeah.
I won't get into it then. Maybe we
Okay.
do that for part 2.
Sure.
Okay, let's just do one more question here. Tammy had asked, she said that she wakes up with a dry mouth. She says she has talked with her sleep doctor. She's gotten no answer. She's okay. What can I do to help with dry mouth? I think that's something that's keeping her. She wakes up with a dry mouth.
At night?
Yeah. Sorry, Tammy. I know that you had more in there and I think I cleared it, but it was something around she only sleeps about 4 hours a day and she wakes up with dry mouth. What can she do?
And she can't get back to sleep.
She's tired to get up and get a drink. I don't know if you have any thoughts around that.
Yeah, so we would say that dry mouth is an excess heat, or it would be a deficiency heat. So for Chinese medicine, I would like to see her and see what her constitutional pattern is. And we could either give her some herbs to help with that, or we could work with her to help. I'd want to know if she's on any medications that can cause dry mouth. There are lots of different ways that we can help to, it sounds like she needs help from the root. That just like a sip of water is not going to help or something like that. So I would definitely suggest that she goes to see a Chinese medicine provider and kind of get some help on that way. If she's dehydrated, sometimes when we're dehydrated, we need more than just water. And so if she feels like it's partly a dehydration, I would suggest that she's getting electrolytes or getting like a coconut water to help replenish, because we really can't replenish those. If we really truly are dehydrated, we can't replenish those without some kind of electrolyte, our body. So
Very interesting.
yeah, so I would need to know more information about the dry mouth, but those are a few suggestions.
Perfect. Okay, well, we are edging up here. It's 12:58. It sounds like we have received so many great questions and so many wonderful inquiries. And there are people that are actually interested in learning more about those wake cycle organs too, Dr. Mabe. So
Great.
maybe, I don't know, a couple months down the road or something, we'll do kind of a part two. We'll incorporate that section of your presentation. We'll address some more questions. I mean, sleep is such a hot topic these days. It's so
Yeah.
hard to cover everything in 1 hour, but it is a hot topic, and that's why I think we need to cover it again. There's just endless material. Somebody asked, how can they meet with you if they have been a patient at Northwestern before? Can people call and request you, Dr. Mabe? Is that how it works on the pipeline?
Absolutely. Yeah, they can call the clinic. I don't know if we could send out the clinic information. That would be fine, just to send out the telephone number, and they can request to see me.
Perfect. All right.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Is there anything else that you wanted to add, Dr. Mabe, before we wrap up?
No, I just think I want to thank everyone for coming, and I feel like it's very important to talk about our sleep. So if you have any other questions for me, my email is, do you want to just put my email in the chat, and
Yep,
people
you
can
do that.
send me an email if they have questions?
Absolutely.
For me, I'd be happy to answer and go more in detail with people if they're wanting to know specifically for themselves. So
Okay. Great. And again, people are saying part two, part two, part two. So if you're on board, we'd love to tap you again in the future. This is so
this is fun.
Lots of
Yeah.
fascinating insights too. You've blown my mind multiple times throughout the session. Megan, can we post your presentation on our Wellness Wednesday landing page? Is that something that we can get for our attendees? They want to be able to see some of the slides from today. Is that possible?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so we'll do that. We'll make sure that that's there.
Okay.
So I think that's everything for today. We just thank you again to our wonderful guest, Dr. Megan Mabe. Dr. Mabe, you are so wonderful and
Thanks.
so knowledgeable. And thank you for kind of putting a face to the subject matter. The Chinese medicine body clock is just, there's so much there to uncover. And it's nice to hear people distill it a little bit more, to relatable terms and to relatable lifestyles. So you can find Dr. Mabe's bio and her contact information on the Wellness Wednesday page. We also want to give up a huge thanks to our partners at Northwestern Health Sciences University, the ones that provide the natural integrative health solutions in one location for the entire family. We also hope that you guys join us for future sessions. Again, it's the third Wednesday of every month. We talk about something new and cool. And also feel free to let us know what you guys want to hear about as well. Next month, we're going to be diving into working in wellness. So if you or someone that you know is interested in learning more about a career in acupuncture specifically, you definitely won't want to miss that. And with that, I think that we're all set. Good to
Thanks
go.
again.
Thanks all for joining. Thanks for your wonderful questions. Thanks again, Dr. Mabe.
You're welcome. Take care.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.